What if I told you that you could sometimes take a 14-night cruise for less per day than a typical 7-night cruise? Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Well, there is a catch. It's called a repositioning cruise. Hi, I'm Rick with the Caffeinated Wonder Cruises and Tours. If you enjoy cruising, traveling, and occasionally talking about a really good cup of coffee, you've come to the right place. Today, we're talking about something that a lot of travelers have heard about but may not completely understand. Repositioning cruises. And the big question is, are they really worth it? First, let's talk about exactly what a repositioning cruise is. Cruise lines move their ships around the world depending on the season. For example, a ship might spend the summer sailing in Europe, then move across the Atlantic to spend the winter cruising in the Caribbean. Instead of moving that ship across the country empty, the cruise line sells cabins for the voyage. And that's a repositioning cruise. They're usually one-way cruises, and they can be considerably longer than the typical 7-night cruise. Now here's where repositioning cruises get interesting. They can sometimes offer a lot of cruise for your money. Because these cruises don't always fit into the traditional one-week vacation schedule, you may find some very attractive fares. But here's something I always tell travelers. Don't look only at the total price of the cruise. Look at the price per day. You may discover that a longer repositioning cruise provides a surprisingly good value compared with a shorter cruise. Another thing I like about repositioning cruises is itinerary. You may visit destinations that aren't normally combined on a traditional cruise. You might start in Barcelona, Lisbon, Rome, or Southampton, visit several interesting ports along the way, cross the Atlantic, and eventually finish your cruise in Florida. That can turn the cruise into a pretty amazing travel experience. Now we need to talk about something you're going to get plenty of on many repositioning cruises. Sea days. Sometimes several of them in a row. For some people, that's a negative. For others, it's one of the best parts of the cruise. Personally, give me a good cup of coffee, a comfortable chair, and an ocean view, and I can handle a sea day pretty well. Sea days give you time to enjoy the ship, have a leisurely breakfast, read a book, attend a lecture, try one of the restaurants, sit by the pool. Simply do absolutely nothing. Now, before you see an inexpensive repositioning cruise and immediately reach for your credit card, there are a few things we need to consider. First is airfare. Most repositioning cruises start in one city and finish somewhere completely different, sometimes on another continent. So you may need international one-way or open jaw airfare. You may also need a hotel before the cruise, transfers, and possibly a hotel after the cruise. That's why the advertised cruise fare doesn't tell us the whole story. There's another consideration, time. Repositioning cruises can last 10, 14, 16, 20 nights or even longer. Add your travel days and perhaps a few days exploring your departure city, and it's become a 2 or 3 week vacation. For retirees and people with flexible schedules, it may be perfect. For someone with a limited vacation time, maybe not. And remember that these cruises happen when ships are changing seasonal locations. Weather and ocean conditions can vary considerably along the way. So who do I think should consider a repositioning cruise? They're especially worth looking at if you're retired or have a flexible schedule. They're also great for experienced cruisers, travelers who enjoy sea days, couples looking for a longer and more relaxing vacation, and people who enjoy visiting some unusual destinations. But if you're someone who needs to wake up in a different port every morning, a repositioning cruise probably isn't going to be your favorite vacation. It's probably the most important advice I can give you. Don't confuse a cheap cruise with a cheap vacation. A cruise advertised for $799 isn't necessarily a $799 vacation. We need to consider the cruise fare, airfare, hotels, transfers, excursions, onboard expenses, and travel insurance. I always want to look at the complete cost of the trip. That's when we can determine whether that bargain cruise is really a bargain. Finally, are repositioning cruises worth it? For the right traveler, I think they absolutely can be. You can get a longer cruise, interesting destinations, plenty of time to enjoy the ship, and potentially excellent value. But the itinerary has to fit you, your schedule, your budget, and the way you like to travel. and that's much more important than simply finding the lowest advertised cruise fare. If you've been thinking about a repositioning cruise and you're wondering which options might work for you, I'd be happy to help. I'm Rick, the Caffeinated Wanderer, Cruises and Tours. If you enjoy talking about cruises, travel destinations, and of course, a good cup of coffee, please subscribe to this channel. Until next time, coffee in hand, passport ready, let's find your next adventure.